For this assignment about water in developing countries, the first thing that you're going to do when determining what kind of information you should use, whether something's credible, is to use one of the provided checklists. So if you look under number 2 here, it says checklist option 1 and checklist option 2. The reason there's 2 of them is because I wanted to give you an option of which one you wanted to use. Some people like to have more qualitative data where they or quantitative data where they can see, this is how many points something earns, so it's poor, fair, good, or exemplary. And other people like to have more abstract data, something with a little bit less restriction, such as this one. So I'm going to tell you about each one. So this is the first one, and this one has a level on it. So as you're looking at the website, you're going to grade it a 1, 2, 3, or 4 for each of the items listed in the 4 areas. The first area is focus, or what specific questions do I have to answer? So you're looking at these items on the information sheet that you need to answer. So it includes some information about the country itself, such as population, climate, things like that, but it also includes information about the water sources and what problems the citizens face, the quality of the water, how they get their water, things like that. So the first thing you're going to ask yourself is, were the answers found on this website? If all of the answers are found, you give it a 4, most of them a 3, some of the answers are 2, and if none of them are found on that website, a 1. Then you look at the next item, which is, do the answers fit the need? Your need for this particular assignment is to make an infographic using the information you find. So you're looking for informative, unbiased, factual information. So you're going to determine whether or not the answers are factual and unbiased. And if they all are, you give it a 4, most a 3, some a 2, and if none of them are, a 1. The last item under focus is unique information found. So for example, if you found all of this information so far, you don't want another website answering the same information. You want a website answering these questions. So you're going to determine, was I able to find 3 or more facts on it? If so, I give it a 4, 2 new facts, a 3, 1 new fact, a 2, no new facts, a 1. So then you add them up. So let's say you gave it a 4 on answers found, a 3 on answers fit the need, and a 3 on unique information found. That means total 4 plus 3 plus 3 is 10 points in the area of focus. Then you would go to the next one, which is locate, or do I know? So the first thing you're going to look at is who wrote the information, the author. If you were able to find the author's name and determine they were a qualified or expert in the field, then you'd give them a 4. If you found the author, a 3. If you found it hard to locate it, so you had to look in like the About Me section or dig deeper, that's a 2. If there was no author at all, it's a 1. If there was contact information for that author, including an email, phone, and address, they get a 4. Just an email, a 3, phone or address, a 2, and if it's not there, a 1, because it's more likely to be credible if the author is willing to let you contact them and have a conversation with you about that information. It's less likely to be reliable if they are not. And then lastly, the history. So that includes what other things this author has published. So you might need to Google search them and then determine whether or not they are members of for example, a political action committee, like they have a bias towards a certain interpretation of the water in that country, or whether or not they are truly an unbiased source that has written other factual, informational texts about that topic. And then again, grade it 1, 2, 3, or 4. You'll again add those up. And let's say you got 10 points again, so now you're at 20 points for that particular website. The next thing you'd look at is information. So you're going to determine the accuracy of the information and grade it. The details, so how much evidence do they provide to support whatever they're saying about the water in that country. And then you're going to grade it a 1 through 4. And then currency, that means how up to date it is. Remember that you can find how up to date something is usually at the bottom of the screen. With the copyright information, it'll give you a date it was last updated or published. If it was last updated recently in the last couple months, you give it a 4. And then if it's 3 or more years old, you give it a 1. So you would again grade it 1, 2, 3, or 4 based on how many years it's been since it was updated. The last item that you'd be looking at is pinpoint, and this has to do with the URL and who published it, what the domain is. So the first thing you're going to do is examine the URL. If it is a .gov, .edu, or .org, it's most likely reputable. If it's a .com or .net, which means it's commercial, it's less reputable. So you'd go ahead and examine it and then rate it a 1 through 4. Then you'd look at the search engine hit. So what you would do is search using the same terms that you used to find it before and see how many other search engines also list that site within the first 2 pages of the results. Okay, so you're seeing how many search engines are pulling that as a credible source using the exact same search terms you used to find it on the original search engine. And then the last thing you're going to do is look at the external links. So you're going to click on the links that are referenced on that page that it links to, and then you're going to determine whether or not the external links are also reputable. If they are, then you're going to grade it well. If the external links take you to pages that are more biased and that obviously have an agenda, you're going to score it less. Now that you've looked at all 4 areas, you would add up the totals from all of them to get a final score and then see where it ranks on this scale here. If it's in the 30 points to 48 points, that would be good to exemplary. Use the source. If it has 29 points or less, it's poor or fair, and you would not use that source. The other website evaluation tool I gave you is a checklist. So this one, like I said, does not have a quantitative amount that you're going to get at the end where you add up how many points it received. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through the questions it asks and put a check next to it if you can answer yes to that question. Then you're going to see how many check marks you got, and if you have the majority of items that are checked off, you're good to use that source. If the majority of the items are not checked off, you are not going to use that source. This website evaluation sheet really does correlate with the other one. It's asking for the same information. The first thing it has on there is scope. Scope correlates with focus on this one. The next thing it asks is the treatment, so biased or unbiased. That relates with the focus and with the information sections on this one. The next thing it asks for is authority. Authority is found in the locate section here. Then it asks for relevance. So how relevant is it? That goes with focus. And then and authority also goes with pinpoint because that's where you're searching the website. And then timeliness is how up to date it is, which would be information. So you can see that all the same questions are asked just in a slightly different way. And so you can choose the website of your preference, but do make sure you complete at least one of those checklists for every single source that you use for this project. Ms. Hooten wants you to make a copy of those in Google Docs and fill them out to turn in to show that you looked to make sure every source you used was credible. If you have any questions about using those checklists, don't hesitate to come see Ms. Turner in the library. I am happy to help you at any time. Good luck.